On Tuesday, April 24th, activists from across the country are converging in Washington, D.C. to occupy the Department of Justice. Many, including actor Danny Glover and M1 from the group Dead Prez, plan to carry out civil disobedience to draw attention to the imprisonment of over 2.3 million people in the nation's prisons, which include vastly disproportionate numbers of the poor and blacks and Latinos.
We're also calling for jobs, education, healthcare, not jails. We're asking the government to keep hands off immigrants. We're calling for the release of all political prisoners, and we're calling to an end to the racist death penalty, in addition to an end to solitary confinement and torture.
Baruch College professor and Occupy the DOJ organizer Johanna Fernandez says protesters will also be calling for the release of former death row inmate Mumia Abu-Jamal.
So our objective is really to link the violations in Mumia Abu-Jamal's case, which are numerous, crisis of mass incarceration. Essentially, we're going to say that all of the problems in Mumia's case, discrimination in jury selection, prosecutorial misconduct, racism on the part of the judge, the fact that the judge was overheard saying, quote, "and I'm going to help them fry the nigger." This is Albert Sabo, the presiding judge in the Mumia Abu-Jamal case, but also very importantly, police corruption and tampering with evidence to obtain a conviction was rampant throughout Mumia's case. And essentially, these violations are not particular to the Mumia Abu-Jamal case. They are rampant in the criminal justice system.
The April 24th Occupy the DOJ action is part of an ongoing series of actions highlighting the inequalities of the U.S. justice system. April 19th was a national day of resistance against mass incarceration. Actions were held in cities including Atlanta, Chicago, Houston, Los Angeles, San Francisco, and Seattle. In New York, a rally was held at One Police Plaza, the headquarters of the New York Police Department. Many of the NYPD's policies, including over 50,000 arrests for marijuana possession last year and nearly 700,000 stop and frisks, disproportionately affect people of color. Here are some of the voices of the dozens who took part.
We're speaking out against the fact that mass incarceration is part of the system. It's actually railroading mostly black and Latino young men and some women into a system that doesn't ever let them go. And once they're in it for life. As we were talking here today, if you're convicted of a felony or a misdemeanor even, and you're a black person, you have no chance to go anywhere in this country. It's like the new Jim Crow. Everybody says there's no more segregation, there's no more, blacks and Latinos pretty much can do what they want, but not if they live in the inner cities and not if they live in places where the police are going to target them for nothing. So we're trying to build a movement to stop that now.
I remember there are times when I was stopped illegally, just for going about my business. I've had 2 white officers ask me where I get such a nice car from, right? And it felt offensive. I think that we're supposed to be able to walk in our communities freely without being harassed. I feel that we're supposed to be able to drive whatever car we want without being harassed. And right now, this campaign that we're doing, right, it's to send a clear message that we're not going to take it anymore. We're going to continue to march and rally and picket and do whatever we can until this injustice stops.
I just kind of happened over to the rally. I was walking around with my camera and I saw a bunch of people and heard them. I really love their message that they're trying to send out. I definitely agree with what they're saying and their statistics. It's really important just as a person, not just as a black woman, but just in general for people to just recognize injustices in the world and try and do something about them and not just accept our circumstances in the world. And that's how things change. It starts with something small like this and it just gets bigger. So.
And that it not just affects the individual that's in prison, but it affects, on a longevity perspective, families. And my family is a survivor of a parent that has been incarcerated for over several years, and it has devastated us as a family. And so I'm here because I have a voice, that I have no fear, and I have the power to say no. And we have to stop this cruelty to human beings. And it's equal to the slave treatment that the United States capitalist government is built on.
There are a lot of significant stories with long roots, been around for years, that are ignored by the mainstream media. To tell stories like this would probably galvanize people into some kind of action where they would want to do something. Prison reform, crackdowns on the way police are arresting people, get on the backs of elected officials who allow this to happen in their neighborhoods and communities. New York City, the people who run New York City are not interested in that kind of change, because if they start with that, they're going to start with a lot of other things. So it's hard to really discuss because it's not there to discuss.
I would definitely say this whole thing with Trayvon has definitely gotten people a lot more motivated. I mean, stuff like that happens all the time, but not to where it gets that national news. And I think that's really a spark for a lot of people to start realizing that we're not that far away from racism. I mean, it's only been about 30, 40 years since, the civil movement and everything, and Dr. Martin Luther King. So that wasn't that long ago. We sometimes forget that stuff like that still happens even now and today. We feel so comfortable in ourselves sometimes, and something like that just shocks us back into reality. And, it gets people out here for stuff like this. It gets them interested, hopefully, and keep it going, not just in the moment for, as long as it's popular, but keep it going until stuff actually changes.
Reporting for The Real News, this is Jessel Noor in New York.